Dear Aunty Lou, most conversations begin with a "how are you" or "how's it going?" But quite frankly, I don't give a fuck how you're doing. Let's take a trip down memory lane to the summer of '97. Do you remember when Mom and Dad would drop me off at Grandma's on Roosevelt Island every Sunday night like clockwork? For years, until I was old enough to stay home alone, I'd spend every summer on the island with Grandma, while all of my friends sauntered off to summer camp, which I knew Mom and Dad couldn't afford. I'd stay at Grandma's from Monday to Friday. Our midday routine consisted of watching The Price is Right and going on long walks. I'd always opted to walk on the Manhattan-facing side of the island. The large buildings and the hustle and bustle always excited me in ways that the more drab-looking Queen side never could. Every Friday afternoon, when Dad would come to pick me up to take me home for the weekend, I'd stand in the hallway outside of Grandma's apartment at 5:57 sharp and await his arrival. My pink Minnie Mouse suitcase was packed and ready from hours ago, waiting for me just inside. I'd see his long shadow emerging from the elevators down the hall, and I'd immediately break into a run, so happy to finally be in his arms. It felt like a freedom I couldn't fathom. Grandma thought that I was miserable staying on the island because of her. She would make comments to Dad saying I had started packing days ago. It made her sad. It made her feel like I hated being there. I wish I was mature enough and brave enough to admit to her that it wasn't because of her that I despised going to the island every summer. It was because of you. You lived right next door to Grandma, and I saw you every day. In the beginning, things were fine. Remember when you'd take me to the library with you and we'd find ourselves at the largest table? You'd read newspapers on one end and put me to sit on the other end. You didn't really talk to me or encourage me to read anything while I was there. I think you wanted me to just sit there and watch you. But I got bored. My curiosities led me towards the warm and inviting kids section of the library. I'd browse the shelves there, often leaving with 10 to 12 books that I'd read in their entirety and then return the next day and the next day and the next day. Books became my friends. It got to the point where I'd wander off and return to the table only to find that you were nowhere to be found. I'd sit alone and read. The librarian stopping by every few minutes to check if I was okay and asking me where my mom was. I told them Mom was at work, but my aunt would be coming back for me. Except me and the librarians knew you never would. And eventually they stopped asking where you were. Remember when you would take me to the local supermarket down Main Street? I'd browse the aisles with you, but you never really bought anything. You'd fill your cart up with random items and then take them out and leave them in random spots in the store. I'm sure the workers love that. Somehow you always escaped my sight while in the store. I'd walk the aisles searching for you, calling your name. I was never brave enough to go up to the workers and tell them that I couldn't find you. Instead, I'd find the exit and walk out of the store, find the apartment building you and Grandma lived in, and take the elevator up to the 5th floor. I'd knock timidly on Grandma's door and she'd let me in, assuming I had just finished spending some time with you. When she asked me how our time together was, I said it was fine. When my parents asked me how my week was, I said it was fine. Everything was fine. You had me over at your apartment several times. Boxes of random items laid strewn about. Piles and mountains of clothing, magazines, and containers. Oh, so many containers littered your floor. I didn't know what hoarding was at the time, but when I asked you once how you took a shower when your bathtub was filled from the tub to the ceiling in large, musty cardboard boxes, you told me that you washed your hair in the sink and your body in the toilet. I believed every word you said. I stayed with you at your messy apartment, for hours, watching you down tubs upon tubs of Turkey Hill ice cream, never offering me a bite as I stared greedily in your direction, barely fitting on a couch that was filled with VCR tapes, crumbs, and a bug or 10. When you cried in my arms because your life was a mess, I'd console you. When you complained to me about everything, I'd console you. When you shared all your secrets with me, the good and the bad, I'd console you. When you told me not to tell anyone in the family anything about your apartment or the things you said to me, I made a promise to you that I never would. I was 5 years old when this all started. I kept your secrets for 22 years until I had my first therapy session when I was 27 years old. And even then, I felt awful for sharing your secrets with a complete stranger who treated me better than you ever would have, and helped guide me through the anxieties, fears, and worries that dominated my life that I never treated. I haven't seen you in 20 years, and I have no desire to ever see you again. I hope you got the help that you needed and made an effort to clean your nasty-ass apartment. If you died tomorrow, I wouldn't even come to your funeral. Sincerely, I hope you rot in hell, your anxious niece.